continue. Let's continue our pace with the conversation. The subject at hand today is about affirmative action. Why is it a holy grail in this country, right? Since independence, we've never really shaken it into place. And that's why we want to delve deeper and see what is a real problem. I may just remind you that the Constitution of Kenya 2010, Article 27, subsection 8, provides for affirmative action where the state is required to take legislative and other measures to ensure that no more than 2/3 of the members of elective or appointive bodies are of the same gender. Article 81 further reiterates that the same rule should be applicable in elective public bodies. In Kenya public institutions, and in particular in the National Assembly, gender balance is skewed against women. Thus, the gender rule generally tries to bring in women into the limelight, and that's why we're having this conversation today. And I just want to introduce my panelists today who will drive the show with me. Joining me is Winfred Lichuma. She's a former chair of the National Gender and Equality Commission. And also I have Nathaniel, who is the national spokesperson of the Amani National
Congress Party.
Congress Party,
ANC.
Right? I normally know it as Amani Party, right? So we want to drill deeper and find out what is the issue. So let me just begin with you, Nathaniel.
Yes.
Why is Kenya unlikely to achieve 33% female representation without the help of affirmative action?
First of all, Debal, thank you for having me. It is not that we are unlikely to achieve the 33% gender rule. We could even achieve more. It depends on our attitudes and the affirmative action policies and laws that we put in place to progressively push the Kenyan electorate towards seeing more capacity in especially women, because historically they are the ones who have been marginalized. If you look at independence, when we birthed this country, the people who were disenfranchised are women, because we did not even have a single member of parliament in the independence legislature. Over time, we've seen the progression in the representation of female, especially in parliament, in the legislature. You saw around 1997, we had about 4.1% of the women elected in parliament. 2002, it went up to 8.1. 2007, it rose further. So there's this progressive, the Kenyan society has realized that more women have capacity to lead. So it is not something that is unlikely. It is something that is likely depending on which affirmative policies and laws that we put in place. So we need to go out there and be able to have more women capacity built, especially from political parties, because our Kenyan politics is structured along political parties. So we need to have political parties fielding more women, especially through the elective seats. And then in the process, we will achieve the 2/3 gender rule in parliament and in elective and appointive bodies in this country. So it is something that we need to be very intentional and deliberate about, women representation. And Article 100 of the Constitution speaks into this. The special interest groups that are enumerated in that article, the women are number one in that list. So there has to be very deliberate moves. We've seen attempts by several bills. We had the Chepkonga bill in 2015. We have had the Duale bill, also trying to find ways of making sure that women are the center of leadership in this country. The Chepkonga bill was basically amending various pieces of legislation. It was called the 2/3 gender rules laws. It proposed to amend several legislations. Duale also attempted again, but all those bills were defeated because there were many interests at play. Political parties did not come out strongly, despite the fact that my political party leader, Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi, and my party, we strongly came out and said that we need to have the voices of women. But then again, we need to have women also coming out strongly to fight for competitive elective positions in the sphere of politics, because you cannot have yours if you're not in the space. So we need to have deliberately women coming out and being protected to vie for these seats.
Thank you. Let me come to Winfred. You've also been the former chair of National Gender and Equality Commission, trying to push this particular envelope as well. But it seems we are batting our heads on the wall, right? And if Nathaniel is saying here that, he's citing, the 2011, that is 2012, the Supreme Court of Kenya, which held that gender equity and affirmative action are right for women under Article 82, subsection B, is progressive in nature and not an immediate realization. Could this advisory opinion by the Supreme Court also be the tripping wire that is actually slowing off the mark and the uptick of the two-third gender rule?
Thank you. I have listened to him and I was smiling.
Because he's making a lot of sense.
No, he's speaking like a politician.
Of course, like a politician.
You know, what is ailing this country is that people do not want to comply to the law. Court decisions are not complied with. Politicians have taken themselves to mean it is a game for men. Now, I want to get this right. There is nothing wrong with affirmative action. Affirmative action is allowed even internationally. Kenya is a state member to the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. In Article 4, it provides for states to have affirmative action. The Beijing action in 1995 did guarantee that women must be represented in countries at 30%. Let me bring you back home, near home. Maputo Protocol at African level has an affirmative action for women at 30%. So Kenya did not commit any crime by putting the two-third gender rule in the constitution. And you know, this is a debate we have had for many years. I was in court. I was the chair of the Gender Commission, so I drafted even the Duale bills, so I know what is in for women for this country. What are we seeing? We are seeing resistance from politicians. His Excellency the President, his debut in Parliament was through an affirmative action. So I think let's not look at affirmative action to mean it's only for women. We have men under Article 97 who came to Parliament via affirmative action. They are not women. So clearly what is ailing this country is we want to condemn the affirmative action. It's not being done only here. Rwanda, that is leading at 62%, has an affirmative action. 30% of women in Rwanda must be in Parliament. This must come together with goodwill. Kenya does not have goodwill. President Kagame has goodwill. Because, of course, the system in Rwanda is proportional representation, the PR, which Kenya totally has rejected. Yes. Kenya has the first past the post system. It has never realized equality anywhere in the world. He said they are going back to the electorate to vote in women. That's where we go wrong. Affirmative action is supposed to compel political parties first to give women winnable seats. So winnable seats means your party is popular in Western. If I stand in Western on a strong political party and the party supports me, I will win. That's why Millie has continued winning in her popular area. But I mean, if I come from Central and ANC gives me a party, nobody will elect me. So clearly, I think we need to get this right. Affirmative action is time-bound. And as a gender expert, affirmative actions have been used all over the world to boost the number of women in Parliament. Because clearly, the first past the post, where first of all, I need money to go and vie. I need my party to support me, which parties mostly do not support. I know I was talking to some of the members who have made it, and they had to give their parties money to be given the seat, the tickets rather, to run. But again, even when you get the ticket, you are not guaranteed that the electorate are sensitive enough to women to vote you. Because clearly we're coming from a point where women are looked at as weak leaders, that they cannot lead.
Right. But let me just ask you, first of all, why do you think it is prone to actually lean towards, the gender perspective when we talk about affirmative action? Because that is where it's been leaning.
It does.
Briefly.
It does because of patriarchy. This country, if we don't dismantle patriarchy. For example, I'm called Mrs. Lichuma. Lichuma is my husband's name. I would have been very happy to keep my father's name, or my own name necessarily, not even my father's name.
Why did you keep it?
I mean, the law would get in trouble with it. If anything ever happens and I want to identify myself, we are identifying ourselves with the male. I belong to my father. I am married by a man, so I take his name. I mean, there are women in this country who have said no, and they will keep their maiden names. But I tell you, if anything happens and maybe they want to go into a succession case and you still are in your maiden name, many things will come up. Prove you are married to him. So patriarchy is killing us. And we run into trouble of taking patriarchy to parliament. So men still want to look at women in parliament like, madam, you are here to serve tea, not to be heard. And it's challenging for this country to vote in women. Take the gender-based violence.
Right, before we come to the gender-based violence, let me just come back to Nathaniel, because as she's speaking, I'm also reminded about other women who are not really in support of affirmative action. Gladys Boschole, recently, I think in 2018, she also was coming up with a draft bill to actually, do away with affirmative action, that women should go down for elective posts, run like any other politician, and win a seat, as it were. And I think she got a lot of, umbrage from a lot of people, especially the women, as far as that is concerned. I don't know if it took any light of day as far as seeing, the draft bill in Parliament is concerned. But women have been fighting against women.
Let me tell you.
With the affirmative action.
Let me answer you that.
I wanted, I don't know if Nathaniel is aware of this, then we'll come back to you.
Some of the nominated.
Just a moment. Yeah, we'll come back to you.
Yes, thank you. First of all, there is something the good Mama said about speaking like a politician. First of all, personally and in our party, we support affirmative action because we understand the disenfranchisement that the women in Kenya have gone through. And secondly, there is a very important perspective that you are bringing on board. And it's placed squarely if you look at, she is a lawyer and a competent one. If you look at Article 38 of the Constitution, it talks about every Kenyan has a right, political choices, and every Kenyan has a right to form, participate in political activities and in forming a political party. So there is an inconsistency between Kenyans having political choices in terms of choosing women through elective seats and the affirmative action that should be realized under Article 97 and 98 of the Constitution. So this inconsistency is what the Attorney General went to court to seek an advisory opinion on. Now, you rightly put it, and she has also said that the Kenyan society is highly patriarchal. These are things that we need to invest a lot of resources in civic education, particularly to educate the masses and even political parties deliberately through their party lists, putting more women in the list. Currently, we are compelled by the law that before we submit the party lists to IEBC, there are certain quantums that we must have for women, especially if you look at the composition of the National Assembly and the Senate. Squarely, we cannot, there are 12 seats that are reserved for women in the National Assembly. There are 16 seats that are reserved for women in the Senate. Those are things that a political party must nominate those kind of genders. We have no otherwise. Even at the party list level, IBC can reject a list. It has the powers to reject a list if it doesn't comply. What I'm agreeing with Winfred is that we need to do more. And she has proposed the issue of proportional representation system. That system is very good, and personally, as a person, I support that system because it's a very good electoral system that compels, it puts political parties at an advantage of having more women so that we achieve the 2/3 gender rule more easily because a closed list is submitted before the elections. So political parties have a chance, even before the elections, to submit more women for the party lists. So for me, I think a lot needs to be done, and I'm not speaking as a politician in this case. We need to be very deliberate. For instance, she talked about has political parties capacity building more women to vie for seats. They are not getting a lot of support. Remember, currently in Kenya, only 2 political parties are benefiting from the political parties fund. As a party, we are very intentional in wanting to support more women, even through campaign financing. But the 2 parties, in an unholy alliance, Jubilee and ODM, they came together and sponsored a statutes law, miscellaneous amendment of the Political Parties Act, Section 25, and removed certain clauses of, initially it used to be that if you have 3 senators or 3 governors or 3 women reps, then you are entitled to a quarter of the political parties fund. They amended the word or to and to make it mandatory. So there are many political parties that were disenfranchised from benefiting from the political parties fund. So in the process, we are unable to appropriate funds internally in political parties to support women aspirants. So there is need to have more, to look at this Section 25 of the Political Parties Act so that we have adequate resources to support more women aspirants. But more fundamentally, if you look at the national constitution, it has put a minimum threshold that not less than 0.4% of the ordinary revenues should be appropriated to the political parties fund. But the National Treasury is not even complying with that minimum threshold. So we have to be very deliberate because our electoral system is disadvantaging women, and that is what Section 27(3) of the Constitution said, that men and women are equal, and there should be very deliberate affirmative actions to bridge the equality gap which she has talked about. So from my view, I think we need to be very robust in having more women join political parties and fill these women. Because if you visit many political parties in this country, women are either put in the Women League and the youth are either put in the Youth League. The mainstreaming of both youth and women is not happening in many political parties. So the problems are lying with the political parties. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's where actually it's arising. If we fix it from the political parties front, then on the national level, we will not be having the issue of dissolution of Parliament right now, an advisory from the Attorney General. But I hope you've not lost your track of thought.
No. I want to come back to it, especially when we make it look like women will not vote for fellow women or women do not support. It's neither here nor there. When we were struggling with the 2/3 gender rule bills, I will not name names, some sitting member of parliament, female, who had been elected, thought women should go out and campaign. Just like you said, Sholei she's a first-timer, very excited, thinking it's very easy. I did it. But remember, even she had a lady who gave her a run for her money, a young lady, who would have won if she just had a bit of some push. We had women who had been elected, and they kept telling me, no, we need this thing, women should come out and campaign. They lost. You know how they're in parliament? Courtesy of the nomination. So you were elected previously, and you think you'll continue being elected. That's how not politics work. And we are asking for affirmative action to fix it once and for all, so that you are not chancing. We've done it in the county assemblies. Why can't we do it in the National Assembly? And how many county assemblies do we have? We are talking about assemblies that have more than 2,000 members.
But these nominations, we're talking even from the women rep as well, it was not meant to be in perpetuity, isn't it? These are sunset clauses as well.
We haven't even tried. We haven't even tried. At the National Assembly, we haven't even tried. So clearly, for me, we have the answer, but we have refused. The answer lies in opening up Article 97 and 98. And in the Senate, by the way, we almost got the number. We are minus, I think, one. One senator. So if we went back and just educated the members of public in the Senate, we are likely to get the numbers. Where the challenge is in the National Assembly. Now,
and in the National Assembly, we have the women rep as well.
We have the women rep.
I want to talk about the women rep, especially with the funding that, it is from the national agenda. That particular funding, if you may remind me, the GAF. Yes. I want you just to, because even that particular fund, the women rep, the attorney, not the Attorney General, but the Auditor General right now, he's frustrated because they cannot explain how they're using this particular money to steamroll affirmative action.
Please, can you also link that with the constituency fund? Because why does it become an issue when we are talking about the women and you have the constituency funds?
Let's not mix issues.
Yes.
Yeah, we
uncouple that. You're being too hard on the women.
This is where I'm really coming on that front.
Yeah, but don't be too hard on the women. Men have had constituency
you have
funds.
this particular fund to steamroll your actions within the counties, but you're not doing it.
They've done very well.
You say that, yes, we do not really have funding, but when you're given the funding, you cannot really account for it.
Okay, the women have done very well, but let me ask you, take my county, Kakamega. I get 7 million that is in a funding circle that is supposed to go to activities. Please help that rep divide the 7 million. Because, I mean, we are making it look like the GAF has so much money. It doesn't. You can't even compare with what the CDF gets.
Yeah, but even that little money that you have with the GAF,
no, but also ask the members of parliament to also use part of the CDF, because, I mean, they are governing both men and women. Are they not? So, I mean, for me, where we lose the debate is where we begin to think, oh, women, push the women agenda. No. Everybody in this country must push the women agenda. They are your mothers. They are your sisters. They are your grandparents. So why must the women be held to account to do the women issues when we have money? The president is also not putting in enough budgets to the gender ministry. I headed the gender commission. We had peanuts of money. So why can't we put money where the mouths are so that we educate the women and we don't make it a women issue? I want us to debate on gender as male versus women issue. We are talking of the young people, men, women. We are talking of the children, men, women. So I think I need to persuade you that do not look at gender as women issues. We need gender for development.
We were trying to debunk that.
Yeah, so both men and women must come on the table and decide. So we are thinking about, so Article 27(8) is talking of affirmative action in appointive and elective position. Why do we only run to the elective positions? Take the case we took to court, where His Excellency did not meet the 2/3 gender rule in the appointment of the cabinet. We got a court decision saying it was unconstitutional. Has it changed? Of course not. Currently, they still don't meet the 2/3 gender rule. So until we have the political goodwill, my brother, Kenya will always remain behind. And in the region, we are lagging behind. Even Sudan, that got independent the other day, is doing better than us.
I wanted to know, because I think also the CRIC in Parliament as well, headed by Jeremiah Kioni, is coming up with a bill. There is a bill, actually. The representation of special interest groups.
The SIGs.
Yes, 2019. And I think in their political parties as well, they're being, persuaded and pushed that, they should have more nomination seats for women as well. You are, I think, privy to this particular bill. You can illuminate more light on it and tell us what is happening with this particular bill. Where is it at as far as the reading is concerned? Are we still having forces even within the National Assembly, as it were, who are against this particular bill? As we've seen, so many other bills surrounding, affirmative actions are being shut down.
First of all, Debal, I saw the bill when it was at the drafting stage, when there was consultation around the bill, caucusing around that bill. The SIG bill basically is based to persuade political parties, as you've said, to consider having more women aspirants in the party ticket,
yes,
so that we achieve the affirmative rule without necessarily bloating the wage bill. Because there are many studies that have been done by the Commission on Revenue Allocation. I'll be able to come on them later. But basically, I want to agree first that political parties can help solve this impasse if only we go out there and do training programs, do civic programs from the political party level to have more women first join political parties. Then after joining political parties, these women are a capacity built as politicians, because political parties are platforms or avenues to nurture women leaders and even leaders in general. So I think political parties have a big role to play in terms of resolving this impasse that we have. that we are facing as a country.
Doesn't that particular SIG bill also seeks to amend the Political Parties Act?
It seeks to amend some sections of the political parties, especially around the party lists. Basically, it's on the party lists. The party lists that are submitted to IBC are given political parties to consider more women. And then secondly, when women are running for the party primaries, there is a deliberate move to support more women aspirants, especially during the internal party primaries. So these are issues that political parties have the capacity to do. But let me tell you, many political parties in this country are bankrupt. They are broke. They don't have.
Are they parties or they're briefcases? I think they're briefcases.
You can use the term briefcase, but if you said that word briefcase before political parties, they will lynch you, because there is a process in which somebody goes through to apply to become, the registered political party. You need an office. Is there. Yeah. You need an office. You need about 24,000 members. The registered political parties is there to ensure compliance with the Political Parties Act. So if you use the word briefcase before political parties, they will literally lynch you, especially these parties that you call them briefcase or small parties. And who are the majority? Actually, they constitute the largest numbers in the political parties liaison committee, and they're the ones running the show there. So the issue that is at play here is political parties need to be capacity built. And I'll still go back to funding, because the cost of election in this country is too high. For instance, there is a campaign financing act that was passed in 2013 that was putting maximum caps on budget and campaign expenditures for all the seats, from presidential race to the MCA race. That act has been postponed twice from being implemented because there are special interests that could have enabled, through such actions is when we can have political parties keenly coming out to support more women through such laws and the caps that were put there. But that bill has been, the act has not been implemented thus far. So we need to have political parties getting public funding through the political parties fund, so that we can be able to place now requirements on political parties who are benefiting from the fund, that you need to put certain quotas to women programs within political parties internally, so that when we say there is a woman aspirant running for a seat through a party ticket, then the party is able to even print merchandise, is able to even organize rallies, is able to visit the electoral area to go and campaign for that particular woman candidate for the seat. But without that, political parties are only depending from the benefactors, the partners they are able to get. And the limitations with partners. They can only go as long as they can. But the BAL, if you look at generally, there is a study that was done by the Commission on Revenue Allocation on the cost, the implication, the cost of having more women nominated if the public doesn't elect more women. And the cost was running into billions. Those studies are available. The Commission on Revenue Allocation has made public presentations even before Parliament. For instance, National Assembly has 349 members. If you have only maybe 30, you require about 130, if it's a third, to achieve the two-third gender rule. So if the public elect fewer women in the National Assembly, and then if you were to comply with the law, as Ms. Lichuma was saying, then we need to have about 100 and something women, about 100 and above, to top up the gap. That means that the wage bill will go up and we will have a double-decker parliament. This is the implication. So I think because of the struggles of women, the historical struggles of women in this country, and even women participated in passing this constitution in a referendum in 2010, we need to find a balance, and the balance can only be achieved through political parties.
Through political parties.
But isn't that a double speak, my brother? On one hand, you want political parties to be given money to do capacity building for women. But when we're giving you a system that is very open and has been used across the world, you say it will be more resources will go into wages. But more resources will also have to go to the political parties for what you're saying, to finance, to education. So let's not have the double speak.
It was not the double speak. I was saying about the research of CRA.
But you've been calling for resources, more resources to come to political parties.
Maybe because
and you know,
also,
when we're thinking about
he's a spokesperson of ANC,
and
of course,
when we think about when we think about implementation of the Constitution, it's only the women who have been taken for a ride. The Constitution did provide for many offices. Constitutional commissions, I chaired one, they all are in place. It's only that lately now we don't have some commissioners in some of the commissions. 47 counties, we have 47 counties. 47 county assemblies were established. We even have gone further and have created bodies that were not even in the Constitution. The Speakers Forum, the Attorneys Forum, and all are getting on that money. But when you say implement an affirmative action for women, give them the nomination, it becomes an issue of resources. Where are we getting the resources to do all the other issues? I think it's just because we've not decided that women matter. We have not decided as a country that women matter. And until we think about women equals to development, and there are many studies you can find. Look at McKinsey. McKinsey releases those women matter reports every year. Countries that have more women in leadership are prone to do very well. So as a country, we must revisit the narrative. It's not a good narrative.
But he talked about the tokenism that, as it were, that yes, if we also give you these seats as just nominations, this is purely tokenism. And if we may also escalate this discussion to the corporate level, the board levels, representations, we can borrow from the Scandinavian countries. Yeah. That right now, it is a quota system that, yes, they have to have female representations in the boards, as it were.
Like Norway is at 40%.
40%.
All boards public,
but
40%.
But you know the phenomenon that really comes with that? We have the phenomenon of the golden skirt effect. That, yes, these quotas will, yes, assign, those seats to the women, but when they're on board, they're just twiddling their thumbs and sitting pretty, as it were. No effect at all on the ground.
Sitting pretty? I have served on boards in this country and internationally. And I will tell you, we have very many experienced Kenyan women who can serve on boards. Let me bring you home. KEPSA. Do you know KEPSA women have taken over KEPSA? The chair, the vice chair, you read that. And women are coming. And let's not also confuse. In this era and time, we have very learned women, as well as men. And boards that have women are normally very keen in terms of financial reports, in terms, I have seen men who arrive at a meeting and that's when they're opening the envelope of the minutes that were given to them to read. They're too busy. But a woman would have read and underlined. So we have many, many women who are board ready. An organization from Norway through FKE has trained very many women. I trained there as well to serve on boards. Women on Board is another network that has trained numerous women and they're ready to serve on boards. So we're not talking about just women coming from the kitchen and being placed in boardrooms. No. Even I think in political parties, you are very learned women. So I think let's get it right that we have competent women, and as we are seeking the affirmative action, it's just that we said Patrick is holding us back. Women, given the position, will serve perfectly well.
I want to also hark you back a bit to where you're mentioning, some of these international instruments that we've ratified ourselves to. And I wonder, but great loss to understand why. But put a protocol, yes, we have the affirmative action, the UN convention as well that we have ratified to. But we have all these things, and you say there's a problem with the implementation. I'm a great loss to understand as well why will the commission of the CRC that is actually headed by Jeremiah Kioni come up with another bill, and yet they're not implementing this particular bill of the gender parity bill that has been there in the House. Is there any rhyme or reason why we should be having this SIG bill in the first place?
First of all,
Yes.
Debali, you have to read Article 100 of the Constitution. It says that Parliament shall pass legislations to give effect to the affirmative action, the affirmative action clauses that are in the Constitution. So it is perfectly in order to have a bill sponsoring that. But as to whether that bill is constitutional and it is supporting the affirmative action that is in Article 27.8, it's another debate. We have had several bills. You've had the bill, the Chepkonga bill, 2015, the Duale bill that has been defeated severally. You remember the time when they were saying we cannot nominate slave queens into parliament. And you've had Article 177 of the Constitution on county assemblies has been effected. County assemblies are gender compliant. Actually, if you look at the county assemblies, if a political party gets 2 elected MCAs, yes, you get 1 nomination slot. Another set of 2, another nomination slot. So that is the principle, and we are complying with Article 177 of the Constitution on the composition of county assemblies. So the sticky issue here is on appointive positions and Article 97 and 98 of the Constitution, because that is where we are not complying. And that's why we are discussing what can we do to make these things happen. First of all, there is something that I've observed in this country. The largest function or the most critical function of IBC is civic education. But you realize that when during the electoral cycle, when IBC should be given adequate support, especially through funding, to do continuous civic education on who is a good leader and how to elect a good leader to the public, IBC will be given billions in the last year of the election, towards the election. So by that time, IBC does not even have enough time to register voters, to carry out civic education, which is very critical. For me, I think that is one of the critical functions IBC should be performing. So they are left stranded to try to figure out how to use this money and do most of the functions as they are required constitutionally. So what we are discussing here is 97 and 98 and how can we comply with it. Already, the court has pronounced itself in this case. The former Chief Justice, David Maraga, there is an advisory opinion standing on the desk of the president, yes, to dissolve parliament for not complying with those provisions. So the president himself might find himself in breach of the law if he doesn't comply with that. But I could understand why the president is in a fix in terms of now implementing the advisory opinion by Justice Maraga, because these are sticky patriarchal issues, as she has said, to comply with. So there is need to change the attitudes of our people, the masses, that women can. And by the way, I don't know why I'm not
that particular dissolution.
And I'm not saying
will subject us to a constitutional crisis.
Yes, definitely there will be a constitutional crisis in this country if parliament is dissolved today.
Which is the section that is making parliament to be dissolved?
Sorry?
The section that is making parliament to be dissolved.
It is non-compliance with the 2/3 gender rule.
Which is in the Constitution.
Constitution, 97
so clearly,
and 98.
we choose, men in this country choose the sections to implement. And not to implement others.
Now, the locus, it is the president now who holds the keys, because the Constitution says the Chief Justice will advise the president. Now, the president has now to implement the advisory of the Chief Justice.
Isn't he also in a very, a dicey place, as it were? So, yes, you want to implement this, but on the other hand, you're facing a constitutional crisis, which is a greater good. You have to save a country from a constitutional crisis, or to implement that, because you still have time, given that you had an advisory opinion from the courts, that it can be implemented progressively.
No, it had a time frame, 5 years. Mm-hmm. It had a time frame.
Yeah, it lapsed.
It lapsed. Yeah. So we have, in fact, like even the political parties is talking about political parties being told they must comply with the 2/3 gender rule. Remember, it was Mativo's judgment,
yes,
on the Katiba Institute case. So all these things are supported by the law, supported by court decisions, but men in this country have decided they will not implement things related to women. How do we deal with that?
Debal, there's a time internally we were having this discussion from the forums of political parties, that what if we adopt the zebra system, where man, woman, in preparing the party lists for elections, so that we have a 50-50 through the zebra lists. But remember, political parties govern their own affairs within their own internal constitutions.
But isn't that really captured also with the BBI?
Now, the BBI,
in the Senate.
In the Senate.
Yeah.
The proposal on the BBI on the Senate is that it's be 50-50. One woman, one man as a senator. And in my opinion, that is also watering down the institution of the Senate, because who will be the head of the delegation from a county? I think that was a direct shortcut in trying to cure these things. Because the moment you have two senators representing one county, the fundamental question is, who is the head of the delegation?
Both of them.
Because once you have two
there will
people,
be no delegated voting, because all that has been amended.
Yes, okay.
So there's no delegated voting.
We are staring at a scenario where BBI might not go through, because you know the time frames and the implementation of these things. BBI is not adequately prepared to handle a referendum. The current budget proposal that is standing before Parliament, there is no budget to do a referendum. The Minister for Finance has not proposed any budget to conduct a referendum, because a referendum is another general election. So we are staring at a possibility of BBI not even going through. So I think there is a national crisis. In the process of perfecting our democracy, we need to answer to these questions, including the one we are speaking to. How can we be able to progressively tap into the women? And by the way, if you look at the recent census results, women constitute 50% of this population. So how can we even mobilize and assist women leaders to go out there and galvanize the votes from even their fellow women, because they have the numbers. Remember, in 2013, we had a powerful woman in this country, whom I call a woman trailblazer, in the name of Martha Karua, on the ballot, running for president. But how many votes did she gather? She moved around this country with a political party called NAK Kenya. She didn't gather enough votes to even become the president. In 2017, she went to Kirinyaga to run for governor. She didn't get it, but I really love her because of her tenacity in politics. She went all the way to the Supreme Court, challenging the election of a fellow woman in the name of Anne Mutembei. So this,
and now she's even at the international, at the regional level.
Yes, at the regional level.
Yep.
So this is a tenacious woman whom many women can admire. Now, I will not say that men in this country don't support women. Trust me, I'm the last born in my family, and I love my mother so much. I have a daughter, so if I'm seeing a daughter, a woman in my daughter, why would I support women? This is a nationalistic agenda that we must pursue, and the solutions are simple. Either we change the electoral system or support political parties. She suggested the proportional representation system that is happening in South Africa. The proportional representation system works well because political parties submit a closed list before the general election. So it is easier to achieve gender parity through a proportional representation system by compelling political parties even to adopt a zebra system in their party list before they submit to the Electoral Commission. So those are the solutions that we need to explore, and this must become a national conversation.
Mm-hmm. Let me come back to you.
Do you know that BBI, he talked about, why I was talking about the women issues.
Yes.
I know you may never understand the dramas that were there in terms of including Article 177 from the county assembly to make the National Assembly an equivalent of what we do when we don't get enough women elected. Do you know, after the launch in Bomas, we had a subsequent amendment to the BBI, the Constitution. Did you know that? What was launched still left Article 97 unimplemented. We had no formula for achieving the two-third gender rule. We lobbied day and night, a small group of women.
It was tucked in?
And it was tucked in. So we always must be a second thought. Why? I mean, why? Is it that women, and clearly everyone will say, I have a mother, I love my mother, she's my role model, I have...
Yeah,
why aren't we putting it in the law for the women of this country to enjoy?
But Lichuba, you had a sporting chance, you as a chair of
I did.
Yeah, of Ngek to actually do this, and I wondered, yes, how far did you push this envelope?
I drafted
yourself?
all the bills.
Where did you get the frustration?
I drafted all the bills. They came to the house. Were they passed? They weren't passed. I did everything. Another day I went to State House with the team.
if Nathaniel claims IBC is not doing an effective job because, yeah, the disbursement of funds for civic education comes in a bit late, what also, you know...
We launched an advocacy strategy with the president in KICC. Through Thimbili's our mama, you remember that? We came to the debate with you in Nation and we talked about it. But it gets to a level, and I will call it as it is. There is no political goodwill in this country to implement the affirmative action. Period. I don't think there's any other thing. Even I ever had political parties try. Right now, of course, they've been told by court, when you're submitting your list to IBC, make sure the 2/3 gender rule is met. Their party has their majority area of operation. They might give it to men. And to fill up, in other places, they bring women. So when the party list goes, it has women. But it will not guarantee that they will be elected. We all agreeing we haven't educated women enough and men to vote in women. That is not going to change. And so, globally, the affirmative action comes in to cushion. So they are brought in like now the way we have brought them in the county assemblies. Given time frame, we are giving you 15 years or 10 years. This affirmative action will be taken away. So prove it. And clearly, I think like even your party, there are many women you had nominated last, and they went and vied and they won. So given the opportunity, we'll go campaign, but the affirmative action cushioned them. Millie Odhiambo came in through affirmative action, you remember. But then she went, polished herself, she went and has been elected twice. I know she will be elected again.
Yeah, polishing. Yeah. And wasn't that also the function of the women rep?
Yeah,
that you come through that particular clause, you know, you the affirmative action, you polish yourself, you learn experientially, you actually, you know, gain the experience. Then finally, we have the sunset clause, we do away with the women rep.
Exactly.
Wasn't that the idea?
No. Initially, like right now, the constitution as it stands now, it has no sunset clause.
Yeah, it hasn't, but wasn't that the idea initially?
The idea initially was, yes, let's give them a time. You see, just it's like, I keep, as a gender expert, I keep using the swimming. You know, if we went to the swimming pool, you have been swimming as men for many years since the independence.
From the river?
From the river. Of course, for me as a woman, if I was found in the river culturally, you know, patriarchy comes in. How would I even think of removing my clothes to go to the swimming pool? So you've been swimming all along. So women have just now learned to jump into that pool. And you're expecting that they will go giving stars the way you're giving? No way. Give affirmative action an opportunity. Allow women to come in. Tutaenda pole pole, we'll be taught how to kick, how to give the water, and finally we'll be better swimmers.
Fantastic. I know we can actually talk hours on end regarding this particular topic that is very ticklish, and I know, and is very dear to you as well, and Nathaniel and Lichuma. But I want just to get your headline thoughts as we are coming to a close. Have we crossed the Rubicon? Because it sounds to me like, you saying there's nothing much we can do. There's no, political will to implement affirmative action in this country. The gender parity rule is still, hanging in the air, as it were. Have we crossed the Rubicon? Briefly.
It's a bit difficult to say, but just allow me to say, if we got political goodwill, all the rest will be history.
It will shake into place.
It will shake into place.
Fantastic. Nathaniel.
It is not all gloomy, Debal. Women have made serious strides. Today, we have the first woman CJ, and her deputy, Mwilu, is also a woman. So we have two powerful women leading the judiciary as an institution. So it is not all gloomy. We have the rank and file of the judiciary, many powerful women judges. So I think progressively, we are setting out, we can do more as a country. Currently, I'm running for Member of Parliament next year in North Mogrango, and I have many women who are competing me, and I'm a young person. I'm not complaining why they are running against me, but I'm just encouraging them. In fact, I'm even inviting them to join my party. There is one who was a former CEC in the county government. She's called Janet. I've told her, come and compete me in ANC party so that whoever wins the party primaries gets the ticket, and we all pledge to support you. So we must also set out deliberately to educate the public. It must become a nationalistic agenda and a conversation that over time we must believe in women leadership. But we also recognize that we must run into the danger at some point where we will have more women leaders than men, and then we will start the conversation that we must also start having affirmative action for men. So this must be a tricky balance.
Thank you.
As a country, as we go forward into the future.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. And be sure, of course, I'll give you an invoice for taking this platform, you know, to, the advantage of it, to campaign and tell us that you're running. A nifty way of coming in between and all seeking votes as well. Just on a lighter note.
We take all the platform. Thank you.
But I really appreciate such a very interesting conversation. Winfred Chuma, I really appreciate a former chairperson of the National Gender and Equality Commission, and Nathaniel Mungare, national spokesperson, ANC Party. I really appreciate your input. Fantastic. And thank you also for watching Siasa Bomba, where we have, relevant conversation just to try and declutter the noise that we have